grade. So let's start out with coaching, and I'm going to separate these two. I'm going to go Steve Sarkisian and the rest of the staff. So Sark for me gets a C minus because I thought he was a lot better in the second half, but early on, I agree. He didn't help with Arch getting into the rhythm. I don't think he helped Arch see the picture of what was going on in front of him soon enough. Basically, Ohio State was just disguising cover 3 in Tampa 2. That's all they were doing. They were disguising cover 3 Tampa 2, and he didn't help them do that. And then also, I don't think he got Ryan Wingo involved. Ryan Wingo didn't touch the ball until, I think, 8 minutes left in the second quarter. That's unacceptable. If he's your number one wide receiver, you need to get him going early. Wide receivers have to get into a rhythm as well. I wish we would have run, a reverse or a screen to him early on. Now, the screen may not have worked because Arch, for whatever reason, that's another thing. He threw the fastball way too often. He needed to take a little bit off of it. But somehow, some way, you have to get that guy the ball. So I'm going to give Sark a C minus. I'm going to give the rest of the staff a B plus. The rest of the staff did a very, very good job in this game. And if we're doing special teams weapons, so I think Jeff Banks would get like an A. What Jack Bomeister did in this game really helped Texas a lot. We couldn't capitalize on that. So overall, I would give Sark a C, the rest staff a B plus. I think overall it's like a B minus game from this coaching staff.
Yeah, I have Sark a little lower. I actually Sark at a D. I think because when you look at the issues Texas faced in this game, right? Quarterback was not ready to play, and the play calling was weird when it needed to be more consistent. And those are the two things that Steve Sarkisian is known for. He is widely regarded as one of the best play callers in the country, and he's a quarterback coach. And so if the quarterback is not prepared and the play calling is bad, that's on the head coach to me. So like when I think about Steve Sarkisian, what he's supposed to be doing, that to me is not a great outing for him. I think I gave Pete Kwiatkowski, if you talk about defense, I gave actually Pete Kwiatkowski an A minus. I think the defense was, if you had, again, in 2 games, Pete Kwiatkowski's scheme has held the best wide receiver in the country to 50 yards in 2 games. Like ridiculous. There's no two ways around that. So like the defensive staff, I gave them an A minus.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with that. PK's done a great job. The only thing I wish we would have created more havoc plays. I don't think we created enough tackles for loss. I think Sark said that too. Sacks. They got rid of the ball super quick, so I wasn't expecting for that. But more TFLs would have been the thing. I wish we could have created more havoc in the backfield.
26% stuff rate. That to me is like they stuffed Ohio State on more than 1 out of every 4 running attempts they had. Like the way that they called that game for Julian Say, the way that they schemed it, the ball wasn't in the backfield long enough for them to come up with multiple tackles for loss, for them to come up with sacks because he was on the move. The ball was out super fast. So like, I don't even fault the defense for that much. Your best pass rusher is playing coverage to try to bracket Jeremiah Smith. He dropped back in coverage to kind of take away some of the underneath stuff often. So like, I think schematically that's part of the game in this. You give up some of that backfield havoc because you know the interior of your line is going to shut down the run. So you have to take away these underneath things, and you're willing to let a young quarterback have to try to make these reads, right? That was what Pete Kwiatkowski's game plan was. So I'm not even buying that they should have made more havoc in the backfield because that didn't seem like the game plan going in, at least in my opinion.
No, I think that's fair. Let's move over to quarterback. I'm going to give Arch a D minus. He redeemed himself later in the game, but overall he just missed too many layups that counted for me. Again, big plays. Like they were there to be big plays. Sark always schemes up to about 5 to 7 plays a game that seems simple, but that if you get it to the playmakers, they're going to create 15, 20, 25 plus yards after they catch the football. And he missed every single one of those. I don't think he hit any of them. So I give him a D minus.
Yeah, I have on my notes, this would have been an F if not for like the last 10 minutes of the game or so, or the last, 7 minutes of the game or so. He was not good. If you cannot, mesh is the easiest thinking thing. That's why everybody runs it. That's why Mike Leach did it 25 years ago, and everybody's run it ever since. It is so stinking easy. Like throwing it behind your receiver on mesh, throwing it at your wide receiver's knees on mesh is inexcusable. It's the easiest stinking thing to complete. So for me, if it's not for the last 7 minutes of the game, Arch gets an F for his first start, but he got it together late. He made some really big time throws toward the end of the game. So that to me got him out of the complete failure, right? He's a D, but could have been better. If Arch plays a C game in this game is at least going to overtime, right? If Arch plays C football, this game is going to overtime.
No, I completely agree. Let's go to running backs, and I have A minus here. I was thoroughly impressed with Trey Wisner. I was thoroughly impressed with CJ Baxter, especially because
Yeah.
I thought, a month ago we were talking about 4 to 6 carries. Then I kind of moved it up what Sark said, what he said, like 8 to 12. Well, he got 10 carries, he averaged 4 yards per carry. But it was the way in which he did it. He was able to break tackles. He was able to look explosive. Like, I didn't see any drop off from the last time I saw him carry a football. I really didn't. There was nothing where I was like, damn, that was different. Looked the same. So he's done a great job rehabbing. He's put in the time and effort there, and then the strength and conditioning staff have done a great job in helping him do that as well. Trey Wisner looked explosive. That one where he came to a complete stop and then bounced outside to the right and gained like 10, 12 yards was a great play. We have a very good running back too. I'm very confident in them from here on out. It's going to be interesting because I think Christian Clark will start to get thrown in there to these next 3 games and earn a little bit of trust, and he'll probably be your third back and when we come down and play Florida. So really good game for the running backs.
Yeah, I have them in A as well. They both looked really great. I think the most impressive thing to me was Quintravian Wisner is 15 pounds heavier than he was a year ago and hasn't lost a step. He actually looks quicker than he did last year. Looks more explosive, looks like he's going to be more of a dynamic runner, whereas last year it wasn't as kind of making guys miss. It wasn't all of that. And so I was super impressed because I was like, he's heavier. Is he going to maintain the elusiveness or still be elusive? And I think he was more elusive in this game. And again, you mentioned it. CJ Baxter was great. I think pass protection from CJ Baxter was a big win for Texas. He looked great in pass pro, and I think that's going to be a big differentiator for them. So, yeah, I gave the running backs an A. I thought they were probably one of the better. I think they're probably the second best unit on the team, I'd probably say, on Saturday.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I think that was Orville Reese where he kind of recognized it. I think he was going to go out to the flats, and then he's like, no, I'm hitting this dude. And he hit him, stood him up, gave time, and I believe Arch Manning completed that pass. So that's the thing, actually, I said we'd missed the most from last year with CJ Baxter because he is an elite guy at, pass protecting already, which is crazy to say as basically his second season. He's already elite at that, but he is.
Yeah.
And we missed him, and he was great in this game. So very impressed by them. Let's go to the offensive line. So I think if you just said the 4 guys minus Brandon Baker, this is probably an A performance for me because there was very little pressure by Ohio State at all in this game. They only got 1 sack. Arch had a lot of clean pockets to deal from, and there weren't any penalties from any of them other than Brandon Baker, and DJ Campbell did have 1, but I can live with 1 penalty from a group. Brandon Baker added on a couple at the through false starts, but I think I'm going to go with a B for this unit. I think they did a solid job. I think they opened up running lanes. I think they can get better in pass protection. I said coming into the season, that was my worry with them. I thought in run game, they'd be fine. I actually thought they'd be an upgrade. I think so far that is the case. Obviously 1 week super early, but they got to get a little bit better in pass protection. Not much, but overall I was actually pretty impressed.
Yeah, I have them at a B as well. I think a B plus actually if I pull up my notes. I think the 2 issues I have. One is the goal line situation, and part of that's not on them because I think especially on the quarterback sneak, they snapped the ball too early. I don't think everybody was in position for that. So I think, but Texas, we said it pregame. Texas is going to want to run inside zone. Sark is going to want to run inside zone. And that's a lot of where Texas had its success. Inside zone was there for a lot of the night for them. And so they were able to get that going. Texas had a rushing success rate of more than 53%, right? They had they only had 2 rushes stuffed on the night. So like that is a great outing. And again, the Texas offensive line created a ton of room. I think it was 4.5 yards per rush as a team. Like this was a great outing. And again, the other thing that kind of took away from their rating for me, that sack on Arch was a communication issue. If you go back and watch it, Matt Patricia did some disguise scheming there, and they didn't communicate well, which is something we talked about. Jake Majors was the guy that called that stuff out last year. So this is another spot where the inexperience of this group is something that we need to watch. And as again, if this game is in week 5 rather than week 1, I think they don't miss that call. But ultimately, those 2 things kind of took away from how I rated this group.
No, I think that's completely fair. Let's move on to tight end / wide receivers. If you want to show, just push out Jack Andrews by himself, that's fine. But I'm going to go C on this. I didn't think they created a lot of separation. Enough, in my opinion. Do I think they were great. Obviously, do I think they were terrible? No. I think down the stretch they started to make some plays. And Ryan Wingo was open 3 or 4 times again where Arch Manning just couldn't give him the football. He probably ends up with 4 or 5 catches for like 60, 70 yards if he's able to hit him on those because, like we said, they're going for yak afterwards. Jack Andrews, I thought, had a really good first game for Texas. He is a plus blocker. He blocked his ass off in this game. He's going to block his ass off for Texas. I really like him at tight end for Texas. Again, I made the prediction of him having the best season in the history of Texas football for the tight end. I think he can definitely do that. I think he ended up with like 6 yards receiving or something like that on 3 or 4 catches. So, and he could add more. There were a couple other ones in there that weren't delivered to him. One where he fell down, unfortunately, but he blocked very, very well.
Yeah, without Andrews, this is probably lower. I have them at a C-. I think Andrews and then Parker Livingston bailed them out a little bit as well. They got separation in spots, but it wasn't enough. And part of that is Ohio State's secondary being very good, right? Ohio State played, we've said it pregame, we said it immediately postgame, we're saying it now. The 2 defenses that were on the field on Saturday are probably somewhere in 1 through 5 at the end of the year. 2 of the top 5 defenses in the country. And so part of the inability to get separation, just Ohio State's secondary was so stinking good. And then when they did get separation, Arch bounced passes or threw them behind him. So I think there is a lot to be, I think we still want a lot from this group, right? The level of talent in that room should have flashed more. Again, being able to make some of those, like we saw, and again, it's unfair to compare them to guys like Carnell Tate, right? Carnell Tate, he's probably going to be, if not a first round pick, an early second round pick at worst. And so comparing them, but like Carnell Tate bailed his quarterback out of some bad passes, where Parker Livingston is the only one that really was able to do that for Arch on one big occasion. So I think there's an opportunity for that room to see a lot of improvement moving forward.
No, I agree. I think there's going to be improvement there. I think it's going to be interesting if they get to one of these younger guys in these next 3 games. That will tell me a lot. But I'm kind of the mindset I wanted to treat these as practice. I think the starters need more reps, honestly. Until we get up by 35 plus on these teams, if we get to that number, I think the starters should stay on offense. Defense is fine. If they want to rotate a lot of guys on defense, I'm completely fine with that. But offense, I think, needs more reps personally.
100%. Those guys need to be on the field as much as they can.
So let's go with defensive line. How did you think the defensive line played? Again, if you want to separate the edges from interior, that's fine. I think if I were to do that, I'd probably go interior A-. I thought those guys were very, very freaking good. I'm not surprised by that. I think there's 5 guys in there that I trust, and I think you could add more in as the season goes on. I think the edge, I would give a B- too. I think they did a good job in the run game, but they, again, didn't create enough pressure. Colin Simmons, if you're going to talk that much, you got to be able to get, one tackle for loss, a couple hurries, something of that nature. I think he did end up having 1 hurry, but that was when they left him unblocked, and he wasn't able to get there still. So that's where I am with that. I think A on the inside, A on the inside, and then C plus on the outside for the edges.
Yeah, I had them together, and so I had it as a flat A because I think the interior defensive line was so good in the game, but I think the edges, you definitely want to see more from them. But again, some of that is schematic, right? Some of that is them getting the ball out quickly. Some of that is them really putting Julian Sain in this team in position to not be able to Texas not be able to rattle him, right? They put Brian Hartline, he did call a conservative game, but I think ultimately he put Julian Sain in a better position to win than Steve Sarkisian did. And part of that was getting the ball out quickly, keeping Sain from having to do too much back there, which again turned out to be they're a big success for them. Ultimately, the defense, I'm officially retiring the offseason conversation of can Texas replace their defensive tackles? Because until I see it, I'm going to believe they're going to have guys, because Texas went into the portal, got a bunch of dudes, and we didn't really see much of a drop off from the interior of the defensive line. That unit is going to continue to be elite for Texas. So, the edges I need to see more of. I need to see more from Colin Simmons. I need to see more from Ethan Burke, but that's going to come. And again, they're not going to play a team. There are probably 3 other teams, maybe 2 other teams on the schedule that can do to that defensive front what Ohio State could.
Yeah, I think Florida's offensive line will be able to do that. I think Georgia's probably will as well. I don't think Oklahoma's will, and I don't think A&M's will. So I would agree. I think
Yeah,
there's probably two other ones. It's going to be Florida might have the best offensive line in the country. So that's why I think
yeah.
they're going to challenge us in certain ways, and that game's going to tell me a lot. So when we get there, that's going to be interesting. So let's go with linebackers. I think this is a B plus because of Leonga Lafau. If he didn't play, this is probably like a C minus for me. But that guy, I think you could argue was one of the 3 to 4 best players on the field, period, for both teams. He played like a man possessed. I'm glad people are finally understanding how good of a football player he is because he never gets shouted out like Anthony Hill has. That guy's going to play in the NFL too. That guy's going to cash checks in the NFL too. He's a very, very good football player. If he could have got his hands down just a little bit, he would have caused a safety. I'm excited to see where his growth goes from here on out.
Yeah, I'm going to B plus as well. And my first bullet point is the same as yours. Leifau was the best linebacker on the field for Texas on Saturday. He played really, really well. Honestly, I think I'd give him an A if he results in a safety, right? If he gets his hands down, this is an A unit. He played really well. Anthill was silent in a lot of the game. And some of that, again, he did his job. He was in zone coverage a lot, so he wasn't really doing the things that make him flash. But yeah, I think Leifau, great in run fits, great in those things interior that you ask him to do. He is not the flashy guy. He is the dirty work guy. He is the guy who's going to get his hands in there, get you those gritty stops, and he's great. His run fits looked great. It looked like a vast improvement from last year, and he was good last year.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. Him and Arvell Reese, I think, really showed out to the national audience, and now you know who those two guys are for Ohio State and then for Texas. Let's go to the secondary. Secondary, I'm going to give an A minus to. I thought they were very good. Clean up some penalties on that one drive, and it would have been hard for Ohio State to score. But overall, really good. Another guy that showed himself off to the national audience is Grayson Littleton. Phenomenal player. I think he was the highest rated freshman according to Pro Football Focus at cornerback. So really, really talented football player. It's going to be interesting how they use him. Inside Texas, a couple guys from there, we're talking about maybe you slide him outside, Gilbo back inside because he just has natural instincts that could translate to outside cornerback. I would trust him. Like, he gained my trust. You're not going to see any better wide receivers, and he did a phenomenal job of breaking that one up on Jeremiah Smith and then breaking that one up on Brandon Ennis. So, and he made the great tackle in open field one-on-one as well. That caused the punt to allow Texas to possibly go down the field and tie it up. So I'm all in on him, and I'm all in on the secondary. I think they're super athletic on the back end.
Yeah, this was my best unit on the field. I have been at A plus. Like I do not see another unit, another secondary in the country keeping the combination of Smith and Tate to 80 yards, right? Like, if you take out that big chunk play, there is I think they were averaging like less than 5 yards per attempt. Like, in that chunk play, again, that was an underthrow that Carnell Tate showed why he would be wide receiver 1 on most teams that don't have Jeremiah Smith. Like, he is one of, again, the only reason I think that he is not the best wide receiver in the country, probably the conference, is the guy he shares a wide receiver room with. There's not going to be another unit that does to Ohio State's receivers what Texas was able to do. Those dudes are going to blast off in the next couple of weeks. And I think it's just going to show how elite this unit was on Saturday, because being able to limit, again, we said it pregame, we talked about it last week. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Ohio State, those two guys would be the number 1 wide receiver in literally any wide receiver room, and they just happen to share a wide receiver room. So, like, Carnell Tate is wide receiver 2 in name only. It is, Texas did an incredible job with them, and I'm very impressed. They were my best unit. I'll say second best unit, because I think we have one more to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Special teams. Yeah. We can't really grade the kicker because he never took a kick, which usually, hey, you could say that as a positive if we would, scored 7 points. Like, if you'd have told people before the game, Mason Shipley will never kick the football, you'd be like, oh, we scored a lot of touchdowns. No, we didn't. It would have been nice. But Jack Bowmeister, A++. We have a legit punter for the first time since Ryan Sanborn. Like, Ryan Sanborn was a good punter, but I even think that he's probably a little bit better. I think he's probably the closest thing to Michael Dixon since Michael Dixon. I mean, he was able to flip field position in this game, and he was beautiful at it. I have the utmost confidence. It was kind of a weird and silly conversation that it came from Utah, so people were like, can he kick below sea level, I guess, or on the same as sea level? And Yeah, guess what? He can, because he had 4 or 5 punts of 50+ yards. He downed 3 out of 4 punts inside the 10-yard line, one at the
Yeah.
1. So utmost confident in Jack Bomeister.
Yeah, that he was, and this is you hate when you have to say it. It's like he was Texas's biggest weapon, I think, on Saturday, and it's why for a lot of it Texas was in the game for so long, because Bomeister would pin them back deep in their zone, and then the defense would put the clamps on, right? So the offense sucked for a lot of that first half, and it was the only because against a lesser defense with a punter that's not putting them in good field position, Ohio State scores multiple times in that first half, and Texas gets boat race. So I think with Bomeister and the way that the Texas defense played, it was definitely, you have to give him a shout out.
No, 100%. We did the coaching steps already, GOJ. We did, I believe I went C- for Sark, B+ for everyone else, and Gerald went A, and then C-, I believe, for Sark as well.
I gave Sark a D.
Oh, a D.
Okay. I think PK and A, Sark a D. I think Sark owes PK like 10% of his paycheck for the next month.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he did kill it. I was, that is the good thing. We answer that question. I do, like I said, I don't want Sark to be super aggressive in these games. If we have the ball at the 29 of San Jose State, we're up 14-0. I don't need him to go for another touchdown. I'd actually rather him kick the field goal, because I want to know what we have in Mason Shipley. I don't want to go to Florida not knowing anything about our kicker. I got to find out in these next 3 games how good this guy is. Where can you trust him? Where does he like it? Right hash, left hash. Because we saw with Bert Auburn, that man hated, I believe it was the right hash. Like, he never made a damn kick from the right hash. So, and he didn't even, by the way, I can't believe he transferred from Miami. He's not even the kicker at Miami. So
yeah,
that has been, that's been terrible for him. He's gone downhill a lot. I've been shocked by that.
Struggle.
Yeah. Texas positional grades, there they are.